The sponsor of this episode is Chadwell Supply, an OG in the multifamily industry. Chadwell Supply is the largest privately owned maintenance and repair supplier, and they deliver orders the next day from local warehouses across the United States. To find out how Chadwell Supply will make your day better, visit www.chadwellsupply.com/difference.
Welcome to another episode of 8 Stories, the podcast where we share stories from around the multifamily space. And I'm Sharon Cauthen, and I'm here today with my co-host, Jennifer Carter.
Yes, welcome. Excited to be back, especially after NAA.
Yes, and so we have both just come back from the from the largest multifamily conference of the year, and that is the National Apartment Association's Apartmentalize. And this year it was in the city of love, Philadelphia. What did you think about
love.
What did
I
you
was
think
just going to say,
the
so
venue
much
and the
love,
location?
right? So much love.
So much love. What did you think about the location, the venue?
Okay, so I did get my steps in, right? I got my steps in. You can tell on my calendar every year when we go to Apartmentalize because my calendar and my phone says I've made a lot of steps. I liked Philly. It was hot. That's for sure. Everything was pretty close, which I thought was great. The trade show was humongous. Lots of walking from that perspective, but a lot of great suppliers and partners, technology that's out there. So overall, I thought it was great. And I don't know if this is true, Sharon, but I heard somebody said there was anywhere between 12,000 and 14,000 people. I know they were anticipating 12,000, but I don't know what their final number was. But it did seem like there was quite a bit of folks.
Wow, it seemed like more people than that to me. Like it was, I did like how easy it was to access everything. You could get to the main general sessions, you could get to your classes, you could get wherever you wanted to be. And if you kept going, you would find these little out of the way, interesting things to do that weren't even part of maybe an education session. So there was something for everybody. My hotel was like 3 blocks away, and most hotels were closer than that even. So it was really easy to walk. The only thing that was bad was how screaming humid and hot it was.
Yeah.
So you were dripping with sweat by the time you got wherever it was that you were going.
Yeah, I could have left that part out. But other than that, I agree with you. It was pretty great.
Yep. Jennifer and I left Atlanta thinking we're going north. We'll get a break from the screaming heat, but we did not. They welcomed us as though we were right at home.
Yep.
But the Multifamily Media Network kicked off the whole NAA conference this year with our very own event, and that was Podcast Palooza. What a night! Want to tell us a little bit more about what happened at Podcast Palooza?
Yeah, we had a great amount of people. We had folks just coming and going, which was really kind of nice. I think everybody had a great time, some food, of course, some drinks, but we also had the opportunity to work and partner with some of our partners and some of our sponsors. We had a little section that was recorded as a live podcast. So we had some folks take about 15 minutes each, talk a little bit about their area of expertise, whether that was AI or whether that was resident communication, EV charging stations. And really, ultimately, it was great to see so many faces. So stay tuned because we've got those recordings as well as our photographer has some great photos, and we're going to share those on social media and our website over the next week or two. So we've got some great added content coming. So if you didn't join us, you can still take part in that as well.
One of the things I really enjoyed about Podcast Palooza is that most of us who are part of the Multifamily Media Network don't live anywhere close to each other. Yeah. So we were all in the same space, except for Paul Rhodes, who we missed terribly. He couldn't come, but the rest of us could actually hug and talk and get to see each other IRL at the Palooza. So that was great. And also I got to spend a lot of time in like deeper conversation with some of our sponsors and also just other people who attended. The opportunity I'm at a table and I don't know the people around me. So just to engage in conversation with new people, it was a lot of fun. The energy was high. Everyone had compliments. The space was not like a giant open rooftop screaming in heat. It didn't feel that way because there was air conditioned areas, there were sheltered areas, so there was a place for everyone to be without feeling like you were in a miserable. When I thought rooftop and I was feeling all the heat, I was worried about it, but it was not at all problematic. It was a great night.
Yeah, it was great. So I think it'll be the first of many. We'll have to scope out our location in Vegas for next year for that. So that was great.
Well, if there's anything that Vegas has, it's locations for events.
That's true. That's true. We'll have to find a good one.
They're built for it. But we do owe a great deal of gratitude to our sponsors who made that night possible. And yeah, we're looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump on to our next story, and that is about health and wellness. That was a big topic of conversation this year, not just in the classrooms, but in the hallways. And they also they had a stage area where you could take part in wellness activities and education, strictly that, nothing about the apartment industry. And I took part in 2 of their sessions, one of which was a chair yoga session. So I thought that meant we would sit in the chair and do the yoga, and that was not entirely true. It also meant we used the chair for some yoga, but it was so I got a good stretch. It was really nice, but it was also nice just to take that beat because it's a very busy week and you're sort of always hustling. So it was nice just to take that beat for 20 minutes and be kind of quiet, still inside of myself while stretching and listening to her voice. And just, I thought it was a great opportunity to step away from the hubbub and really refresh myself.
I did not do the yoga session, but I did scoot over, and they do this every year, but I always find it, is the massage, is the Zen Den. So I snuck in and got a chair massage for 5 minutes. And it was fabulous, and it was well worth. I had to wait a few minutes because they had a line, but it was well worth it, and I would do it again every year. So that was my health and wellness of a 5 minute massage on my shoulders and my back.
On the
Sharon,
very last, that
God.
sounds great, by the way. A massage in the middle of this.
Yeah.
I saw the Zen Den and there was a line, so I didn't wait in line for it. But on the last day, I found the puppies, the dogs. Did you know there was this dog station you could go to, and you have to sign up and you get to go in and pet dogs.
Okay, so I didn't actually know you could go in. I do know that MRI sponsored it. They didn't bring the dogs, but they did sponsor it. And when I had done my kind of pre-walk, I saw them setting it up. But lo and behold, I did not know you actually can go in and hold them. I thought you just kind of walk by and like see how cute they are, right? And heard them bark in the hallway. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I love dogs.
So good. I did a Labrador Retriever that I just so sweet. And then I played with a German Shepherd who was super lovely and just let me get all up in their fur. There was a little long-haired Dachshund when I was in there. All these dogs are dogs that are very socialized. They are brought in by their owners to participate in this. Some of them are therapy dogs. They're just fabulous. Not a single even bit of aggressiveness. They're happy. I mean, I of course would like try to get them to want me to love on them, but good dog behavior. But overall, boy, but that was a blast. And it really was as good as any sort of relaxation technique, was just to be able to pet on some doggies.
Probably a good thing I didn't go because I probably would want to take one home. So it's probably better that I did not.
You never make it to another session.
Right.
I'll be here until you take the dogs home. Well, one of the other sessions I went to that really stood out was called Courageous Voices. And this session was about learning. So how many times have you not raised your hand to put an idea on the table because you haven't fully fleshed it out in your own mind? And before you know it, somebody else has put that same idea out on the table and you never got to present because you held yourself back. So this is really about finding the courage to put your voice, raise your hand. You don't need to wait until it's a fully formed idea. You can say, hey, I've been kicking around this idea. I don't have it fully fleshed out, but I want to toss it out there so we can talk through it. And so it really was about encouraging yourself and encouraging others to have the courage to step into their voice. And I thought that it was a really different and interesting opportunity just to have the courage to speak up for yourself and encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, I think that plays, and I didn't go to that session, but I do know some of the folks that were on the panel for that, and I would say that plays a little bit. We've talked a little bit about this before, but imposter syndrome, right? And like thinking you don't have it all together and whatnot. And so I anything motivating from that perspective, I think is always great. To be able to hear from other people and get that kind of fire inside you to do the same, because we all have it in us to be able to speak up and have, you know, to share what we have, to bring to the table, whether it's fully fleshed out or not. So, I am sure one of those sessions will be back next year. That's pretty awesome.
I think that it's a conversation that we need to have over and over again. So I hope that or something like it is back again next year, because maybe you've resolved that for your life and you're really good at speaking up for yourself. There are plenty of people who have not yet approached that line. And so I think we have to have that conversation again and again, and listen for when we're in a group and someone's not contributing, to
Mm.
give them an opportunity. Some people, it takes a little extra beat before they can jump in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like a lot of the sessions, and you went to way more than I did, but I feel like a lot of the sessions were very motivating, inspiring this year, along with the standard, I guess you could say, AI and all that other kind of stuff. But I do think, the session that I did on neurodiversity as well, right? I think those types of sessions, the courageous voices, is like shining a new light on people and inclusive and encouraging people to take a step out of their normal world, right? Or their normal box that they live in. So I was very motivated overall by those types of sessions that they had on the docket this year. So again, I really hope that they, you know, really look into those for future conferences.
Can you speak a little more about the neurodiversity session?
Yeah, it was super moving. Quite frankly, and we as the panelists, we really took a stab and really looked at outside the industry of what is happening with neurodiversity, whether that's autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and really how those types of people that may have those diagnoses don't always get the full-fledged opportunity, right? And so how can we be and bring a light to those folks that may be on your team or maybe interviewing for your team? So we took it from the executive level down to on-site levels as well. How can you motivate? How can you be a great listener? And really, in the end, we had a Q&A that lasted longer than the session because folks were so engaged that they were like really talking and creating a community, and they were using their courageous voices, to your point. So it was really, really powerful. And it was really exciting to see all of those that were in the room, again, whether they felt that they, you know, uh, wanted to learn a little bit more, or they even might have, made me neurodivergent and speaking up from that perspective. So it was very motivating and very moving, to say the least.
That's one session I wish that I had made it to, because we don't know how many people have those types of challenges and how much harder they're working generally to function in the world. And so it's important that we talk about it and that we learn from those who can use us, who we can modify our behavior, frankly, to give them a little more time and space if they need it in order
Yeah,
to be a part of the conversation. And
100%.
I think it's very important not to lump them into any one bucket, because someone can be somewhere on the spectrum and still be someone who speaks out and has confidence. Someone can
100%.
be dyslexic and still be a writer, or someone who speaks eloquently. We cannot pre-decide for someone, put a label on them and decide this is what that means.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, very motivating overall. But I think you went to another session that was kind of the other realm, or more another popular area, which was AI, right? I think that was one of the other hot topics, quite frankly, throughout the entire conference.
Yes, I feel like we've been talking about AI for the last couple of years, and we'll be talking about it for the next 5, I think, at least, because we've really only scratched the surface of what AI can do. So last year it was like getting people used to the idea it's coming. This year is it's here, and still 95% of people are not entirely sure what does it mean and what are they supposed to do about it. So this session was EIAIO, which I thought was very clever. And it was for me, it was a great starter session for people who are fearful of artificial intelligence. And it also served as a reminder that artificial intelligence is here, it's never going away, but also emotional intelligence is never going away. We are always going to need humans in our business. And although our particular consumers, right, renters, they want frictionless in terms of applications, oftentimes in touring and paying their rent, but they also want to know that they're recognized by somebody in the community, and that somebody cares about them individually, that somebody's there to respond when they have an issue. I was talking with somebody with Mark Sharp, who was saying, although many things can be used, AI can solve problems, AI will not show up and plunge your toilet for you. And will not show up and fix your air conditioner whenever it goes out in the heat of summer. So we're always going to need humans, and those humans will need to practice their emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a balance of AI and EI and understanding. Even for myself, understanding AI is very complex, right? And so really breaking it down and understanding how it plays into our industry, even our everyday world, what we're doing, is just there's so much to learn from it. So to your point, I think we'll definitely be talking about it in some capacity for at least another 5 years. Maybe look back and be, say that we've learned a thing or two in the next 5 years. Chadwell Supply is the proud sponsor of Multifamily Media Network. Chadwell Supply is the largest privately owned MRO supply company and is committed to the multifamily industry. They deliver orders the next day from local warehouses across the United States. Chadwell Supply offers valuable resources such as maintenance training, a dedicated renovations team, and procurement platform assistance, ensuring multifamily properties operate more efficiently. Now, by partnering with Chadwell Supply, they'll help communities stand out in an increasingly competitive market. So learn more at chadwellsupply.com/difference.
Absolutely. So one of the things that people look forward to at NAA is Apartmentalize is the opportunity to really spend time just enjoying being with their fellow apartment folks, whether they're vendors or people in the property management side of things. But Wednesday night was a really terrific event, and that was at the Franklin Institute, which is a gorgeous building. I mean, the dome is several stories high, and so a lot of the activity took place kind of on the floor of the dome. And there was a lot of like reverberation of sound in that room. There was great food, but I also I may be a little bit of a museum nerd, but I really enjoyed wandering through and looking at the exhibits also. There was especially one centered on the brain that I enjoyed.
Oh my gosh, that was so cool. I actually got kicked out of there, like legit. Yes, at the end, the guy was like, you'll need to go now, we're closed. And I literally said to the guy, I'm actually enjoying myself.
Yeah,
I actually hope that exhibit comes to Atlanta, Sharon. Like, I would love to go back and really read about it. It was magnificent. I loved that.
Yeah, I found that twice at both places that we went. I found a desire to really be there as a person who had time to look at everything and all the exhibits and really take it all in. But the brain, there was even like, it showed an aging brain. It showed a brain with some real loss of cognition. Somebody may have Alzheimer's or other factors that you can actually see the physical changes in the brain. It was fascinating. And I'm going to say Jennifer does not believe the thing that I'm about to say, but it is science. It has been proven by science that there's no such thing as multitasking.
That's true. You're right. There isn't. You're right. There isn't.
And Jennifer is always doing 5 things at once. And somehow she does a really good job of keeping it all together. But yeah, they did say it is
I'm working on that.
Scientifically proven that you cannot multitask. So there's some studies you can read on that, or there's just some high level stuff that you can take a look at. But basically, your brain loses a percentage of its value of what it's doing as you switch from one task to another. It cannot retain everything that you are doing. So you have to reorient yourself when you get back to it. So there's this loss every time you're switching. So I feel like as a working mother, and for a long time I was a single working parent, I didn't know how to live my life any other way. Like it was just a requirement to get through every day. And that I was juggling all the balls, spinning all the plates. And I know lots of others are in that seat too. But the thing about knowing that is that it gives us permission to say no to doing multiple things at the same time.
For sure.
Because a lot of
I'm learning that art too. Aren't we all?
It's hard, but a lot of those things are optional, or at least they aren't urgent. They don't have to happen right this minute. It's okay to say, I'd love to do that. I have some time at X, instead of I'll squeeze you in between the other 3 things I'm doing. And yeah.
Very exciting. So yeah, that was a great venue. I mean, to your point earlier, like Philly generally, I thought, such great locations such as this to have great events, right? And for suppliers to use such historical places in the city. Sometimes you don't have that opportunity. And I think Philly, really offered that, right? From really beautiful, I want to say artwork, but that's not the word I'm looking for.
Architecture.
Thank you. Yes. Which I did not get enough pictures of by any means. But also inside was great. So it was very, very exciting.
That's such a great point, that all the venues we had this year, that of the events that I attended, were in these great historic architectural museum type settings that were, I don't know if I would have visited it otherwise. And now I'm like, I think I need to go back to Philadelphia sometime and really take my time wandering through these spaces.
Well, to your point, I don't know if I would have gone in, to the location, right? And really even saw the exhibit about the brain, right? If it wasn't for the party, right? If I was walking down the street of Philly, would I have gone? Probably not. So I just overall, I thought it was fantastic for that. It was great.
Well, just when we thought the Franklin Institute was the most incredible building, Thursday night, we have an event at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the entire Philadelphia Museum of Art. And
Huge.
It was, everyone knows it as the 72 steps that Rocky ran up. And I can tell you, if Rocky had gone inside, he was just getting started, because there were so many floors inside the museum, and you took these concrete steps up to each one of them. And so I don't know how many steps I had climbed by the end of that night, but it was a lot.
I didn't count the steps. I will tell you that. I did not do that. I took the word for it. But again, I think that was beautiful. At one point, Sharon, I think you tried to text me and say, "Where are you?" And I was like, in the basement, because it was so large, right? Like I was like, I don't even know where I am. It's beautiful. But again, it was great to see everybody. The photos that people have been posting on LinkedIn are beautiful, of everybody outside with the gorgeous landscape and in the buildings and the lights. I mean, it is just almost a picture perfect, and really shows you, I think, as an industry, how close we are, and really just the networking and the energy and the connection that we all have together, which I think is just absolutely amazing, considering we mostly only see all of each other once a year in this capacity.
I didn't even realize how large the outside party was, because the inside party was so big. I didn't, until I was leaving, and I'm like, where's an exit? And then I get caught out there and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I will say
it's pretty wild.
All of us ate more Philly cheesesteak than we should over the course of this time, but the best appetizer they had that night was outside, and it was like a little like corn husk kind of tray, and inside was a spring roll filled with cheesesteak.
So I didn't have those there,
It was so
but
good.
I did have those at the Apartmentalize reception party on Wednesday. And I literally took 3 off the thing right away. I was like, and then I went to go get more, and they were all gone at every station. So I agree with you. Those are great.
I need those to be sold frozen so that I can.
I'm sure we can.
I mean, it's probably not healthy for me, but those were delicious. And I did go back a couple of times.
I love that.
that night, I'm going to fangirl just a little bit. This has nothing to do with apartments. But when we're at the Museum of Art, I found myself trying to find people and instead finding my way into these fabulous exhibits. And there was a quilting exhibition of these women who live in a very small town in Alabama. And they've been quilting for a long time. And these quilts are not like anything you've ever seen before. They're super bold colors and just really organic patterns. They're not like the perfect wedding ring quilt that you see all the time. Not that, that's not it at all, but they're making these gorgeous artistic quilts. There was a whole lot of folk art that was in there that was fascinating. But for me, I have been a lover of this one artist, Mary Cassatt. And I saw that I thought I had seen on the banner that she was coming to Philadelphia, but she was there. I mean, not her personally, she's dead, but her work. So I have never seen her work in person. I've only seen reproductions. So for me, I left every human behind and just wandered through her exhibits. I took pictures of a ton of her pieces of artwork. I loved her story because she was born in 1844 to a wealthy family who expected her to get married and have babies. That her job in life was to marry well and have babies. And she said, Papa, I think I have a different plan. And her father said, if you are not going to do what I'm telling you to do, I'm not going to financially support you at all. I will not buy any of your paints, your canvases. I will not support your life if you are not going to do what I tell you. And she said, okay, got it. And she made a life for herself as a working artist. She is one of the best known female impressionist artists. And she actually was very proud to have her passport on her occupation. It says working artist. She was so proud to be able to support herself and to have used her art. And then she also was a very early feminist. So she was part of the women's suffrage movement. She helped us get the right to vote. I'm like, Mary, I loved you before, but you and I, we could have been friends. I mean,
I love that.
if I lived in the 1800s in a wealthy family, I did not, but I love you. I love you. I love you. And so, yes, I would not have seen her artwork if we hadn't had this event. Like it was just.
I was just going to say that's pretty cool, right? Because you wouldn't have gone there and you got to experience it. And I think that's sometimes what the parties, sometimes I say parties, but the gatherings really is about, is also having the opportunity to see the city, right? And see where we're at and take that all in. So that's super cool. I love that.
Loads of people put up photos of going to the Liberty Bell, of course.
Of course.
I had been there before, so I didn't make that trek, but you should. When you see it, it's like a bell with a crack in it, right? But
yeah,
because it's such a part of our country's history, you should see it at least once. And I was thrilled to see all the photos of people who were going to see that. And but if we get back to the conference, though, there was something that I did not get to go to. Tell me about the Fishbowl.
Yeah, the Fishbowl was a new format this year that they tried from a session perspective, and it was super intriguing. So it's basically like, think about yourself in a fishbowl. So some had a moderator, some had just had some, panelists up there, and they were in these swivel chairs. And so basically there was attendees all around you. So again, thinking fishbowl, and they were there to kind of greet or generate the conversation. But ultimately our own, Lacey Daniels did one on, communication, in challenges there. But what they did was they brought people up from the audience and they sat in a chair in the fishbowl. And so they were to share their experiences around that topic. And so there was, I think, 3 or 4 different fishbowls. So it was really an initiative, and it was well received from my understanding, but to create that community, that connection, to hear from others than just the experts or the panelists, right? That have that information, that plan for that, but really involving the attendees up there on stage, share their experience, share how, maybe they've done things around that topic that was chosen for the fishbowl. So I liked it. I did not get on the stage, but it was super interactive. And you really heard from a lot of people in the audience, which I think is what we're all there for, is right, to learn from all of our other connections, networking, industry experience. And so that's just a different way to elevate that. So I think that they will bring it back for next year, but we will have to wait and see on that.
I hope so. That sounds like a really interesting way for the conversation to evolve. instead of
Mm-mm.
it being a super plan. We're going to hit these talking points. There's a chance to let it grow. Yeah, exciting. I saw that it existed and I was sad to miss it. The reality is nobody can see everything at Apartmentalize. It is physically impossible to see everything in the
Yeah.
time allotted.
Yeah.
But you can you can curate the things you definitely want to see and leave a little room for magic for those things that you've got a block of time that you didn't exactly plan for and suddenly there are dogs to pet.
Listen, I had a schedule. I was one of those that went in and like, this is where I'm going to go. And I had my schedule out and it didn't happen. Got to leave a little room, like you said, for what's to come. So,
So
but
Jennifer, I have a thought though. This is going to be our final story for those of you who noticed that we didn't do a very good job of tracking 8 stories this conversation, but there are so many conferences every year that serve our industry, and some of them are really a little more specialized. But how did somebody choose? If you're sitting down and you're trying to say, okay, this is my budget for conferences this year, how do people go about that? Apartmentalize seems like a non-negotiable, right? It's the largest multifamily conference of.
I, yeah, I think it goes down to what do you want to get out of it, right? So, like Apartmentalize, are you there to network? Are you there to look for new technology? Are you there for the education sessions, right? Like, I think you have to go in it with what's your goal, right? From that perspective, because to your
Mhm.
point, Apartmentalize is huge and you can't do it all, right? So, like, really knowing what you're going to do when you go there. I think the other ones that, you know, that I personally would put at the top of my list would be RetCon, which happened in April, which was in New York, but now it's actually moving to Vegas for 2025. And that one I think because they do a very good job of um specializing your tracks of like what you're going to talk about. There's a multifamily one, there's single family, right? Like you
Right.
really can hone in on specialties, which I think is really, really great. So it's not overwhelming and it's tactical. I also know that Retcon does a lot of roundtables, which I hate the word, but I like the idea of sitting in a circle, like with a lot of collaboration. I
Right.
think that's where the best ideas and things come from. Um, I also think Blueprint, which Multifamily Media Network, right? We will be there as a
Yes.
partner. There's, and I haven't been to this one, so this will be my first time. But I do think this one is really prop tech. I think it's also, they've got people that are outside of multifamily. And I'm also a big proponent of seeking outside of our industry to what we can bring inside. So I love that. Um, and then I would say probably OpTech, right? From that perspective, there's a little bit of similarities with that versus Apartmentalize, but you do have a little bit different of an audience and it's definitely smaller. The trade show is like one small room. I say small because it's compared to Apartmentalize, but and you can have really great quality conversations. And so I think those would probably be my highlight ones that I would say put on the docket for 2025.
So I think there of course are some opportunities to do local and
Yep.
regional conferences as well. And then there are others that if marketing is your lane, there are other conferences that are really geared towards marketing, like AIM.
Yep.
And so I think it is there's a lot of there's a lot to choose from and always a limited budget. If you have an unlimited budget, go to as many as you can, soak it all up. But most of us have a limit to how many we can do. So you really have to decide, what do I want to get out of it
Yep.
and what makes the most sense for me.
For
And
sure.
so I always enjoy Apartmentalize. I not just to see a lot of faces, but because there's everything to choose from.
Mm.
It is like a giant smorgasbord of things to learn and things to do. We actually did some podcasting on the floor of the trade show. And so that was a lot of fun. Chadwell Supply, one of our partners, had built out a podcasting booth.
It's
And
great.
so several of our Multifamily Media Network co-hosts were in the booth. And I got to sit in there with Mark Sharp, who is one of our brand new ones. And it was really great. The energy was different to be physically so close to somebody and also to have the sounds of the conference happening or the trade show happening around you. So talk about feeling like you're in a fishbowl.
Yeah, that is definitely a
Walls
fishbowl
are
right there.
clear. People could actually see in as you are doing the podcast. So anyway, something for everyone. But
Yep.
this one is another one year in the books for NAA. And we'll meet again as a group, I'm sure, at Blueprint in Vegas in
Yes.
September
Yep.
and come back with some fresh information from that conference. But for now, we're so grateful that you joined us for another episode of 8 Stories. And we will see you at the same time next week.
Thank you again to Chadwell Supply for sponsoring this episode. Chadwell Supply delivers unforgettable service with next day delivery, online and in-person maintenance training, procurement platform assistance to make your ordering simple. Visit chadwellsupply.com/difference to learn how Chadwell Supply will make your day better.